host with the mustache, and welcome to season 4 of 20th Century Reviews. So, in keeping the tradition of reviewing a horror movie every January, today I'm going to review the 1931 M. So, let's get going. The film is about the German police hunting down a serial killer, and the underground criminal world joins the manhunt to hunt him down. Well, what do I think? Well, I'll tell you. Well, I like it. Now, in my review of the 1929 Broadway Melody and the 1929 Rio Rita, I complained how the films felt kind of slow paced and that there were moments in the films that dragged. Well, that's mostly because those movies were musicals and were meant to have, music. Well, you technically don't have that problem with M. You see, in most horror films, the music is supposed to tell you how to feel. But with no music, the audience is left in the dark, and they do not know how to feel, making the film even scarier. A great example of this is in the opening scene. The film opens with a little girl bouncing a ball, and then we see the killer's shadow. And then we see the killer buying the girl a balloon. And then we cut to the mother shouting for her daughter. And then we cut to an empty room, an empty staircase, and an empty plate. And then the ball rolls out of the bushes, and then we see the balloon in the air. The fear of this scene comes from what you don't see rather than what you do see. Another reason why this scene is so brilliant is that you don't see the killer's face. You see his shadow and you see his figure, but you don't see him until about 15 minutes in. Kind of like how you don't see the shark at first, you just see his point of view. The killer is played by Peter Lorre, and the brilliance of it is that he's not given any dialogue. You just hear him whistle. Fun fact, Peter Lorre could not whistle, so Fritz Lang whistled for him. Going back to the Jaws comparison, you know how in Jaws you know the shark is going to attack just by hearing John Williams' music? That's kind of how this whistle works. This film was Peter Lorre's screen debut. It would start his career, but at the same time it would curse it, as he would often get typecast as the villain in such films as Mad Love, Crime and Punishment, and The Man Who Knows Too Much. But by far, the most iconic scene is where the killer is pleading in front of a kangaroo court for his life. This is where Peter Lorre is finally given dialogue, and he gives a heart-wrenching speech about how the killer, can't help it. He's basically a tormented creature, and it's a very powerful scene to watch. This movie is also very ambitious. For example, there's few seconds of the camera tracking through a bar is amazing. You actually feel like you're walking through this area. It's very ambitious for 1931. The film was made in Germany and was directed by Fritz Lang, who also directed Metropolis. I should re-review that movie someday. especially given how that movie review was very rushed. Well, I talked about most of the ups of the film. What are the downs of the film? Well, there are a few. There are two small things that bother me about this movie. For one thing, the crime lord is always wearing leather gloves throughout the entire movie. There's also a ton of smoking, and I do mean a ton. There are moments in this film where a character's face is covered in smoke, or the entire room is nothing but a smoke cloud. There's a guy with a cigar in his pipe. There's also a guy who has a box load of cigars and cigarettes. Then he sniffs one of the cigars and tries to smoke it. Another problem with this movie is that it's rather slow sometimes. And there are parts that do kind of drag on for too long.
Could you be any slower? Don't answer that.
Well, that's all I can say about the 1931 M. A good start to Peter Lorre's career, and a very good start to Season 4 of 20th Century Reviews. But until the next review, I'm Henry R. Mockingbird, your host with the mustache, signing off. I give this film 5 stars. Write, like, and subscribe to the channel and ring bell for future uploads. If you like to make a movie request on this channel, do so in the comment section below. And feel free to check out my other shows, Modern Classics, TV Treasures, and Geek Reviews. And check out my editorials.